Tom Pace with the Talk of the Town. Now, here inside, you saw the outside a moment ago of the Caddo Registrar of Voters office in downtown Shreveport, Louisiana. It's the 2011 fall primary election update. And what that means? It means the October 22nd fall primary right around the corner. The Caddo Registrar of Voters is Ernie Robertson. And Ernie, this is going to be a unique election.
Well, this is the time for the statewide and parish-wide elections. And, of course, the first thing we're doing is trying to get past having all the records scanned. And that's what all these boxes are for in here, Tom. These are the actual registration records, and some of them have 2 and 3 and 4 cards attached to them, times 160,000 cards. So we're going back checking nearly 500,000 cards that we have to make sure we're scanned properly. They're digitally recorded now in the Secretary of State's computer, and that's what we've been doing pretty much all summer.
Now, if you look at all these cards in here, this is a huge room, and you've got all these, it could be 600, 700,000 with all the attachments. What about absentee?
Well, we're actually going to be doing, of course, early voting now out in the main office again. So we're just using this kind of for a staging area. It's going to take us a few more months to get through all these cards so we can get them back into the main files.
All right, so there you have it. This is what they refer to as the absentee room, hence nobody is here. But the point of the matter is all these cards they have now scanned them in Baton Rouge. They're double-checking them here. And believe it or not, all this will be ready to go when it comes Election Day on October 22nd. Now, isn't there another room around here?
Yeah, that's where we're going next because we got to talk about redistricting.
Tom Pace again with the Talk of the Town. And we've now moved out of the absentee room where all those cards were down to Cherry Carpenter's office, where they are actually double-checking all of the redistricting, making sure that everything has been done. Now, redistricting is a government mandate from the federal government. Census has to be recounted every 10 years, and so we have had that. They have now determined how many people are in the parish, but the thing is their geography, where they're located, is a whole nother matter. And so consequently it affects the various races from state rep to the Senate races and a whole bunch. And Ernie Robertson promised us that he would tell us about redistricting, reapportionment, if you will, Ernie.
Well, it takes place every 10 years, like you said, and it's very technical from our side because you actually take the lines and the people that have moved wherever they've moved to are being surveyed or done the census on within those lines, but then the parish commission gets the opportunity to come back in and change some of those based on how big some of the precincts are. So in looking at what we went through, while there were only like 12 precincts actually changed, you wind up with every precinct that did have a change has to be examined on different levels. Like you have to examine it for the city judge elections, you have to examine it for the city boundary for the 2014 elections for the city council. You have to come back in and take a look at it, of course, for the parish commission. And then you also have to look at it for all your sub-district judges. So you wind up with maybe 50 or 60 examinations that you have to do. Because of that, Caddo being the most complicated jurisdiction in Louisiana, thank goodness we got also the best chief deputy in Cherry Carpenter, because we were able to get through that literally in record time to get it done. All we're doing now are some GIS checks to make sure it's done right so that everybody's in the right place for this fall's election, and also because of the special election for city judge. That kind of threw a little curve at us right there at the end, and that is an invisible line district in a few places. So a little bit more difficult for us and a little bit more complication, but that's part of reapportionment. But it's done in Caddo. We've got that through.
And again, where he talked about the commission, the council, it still affects the statewide races like for representative and senator and things of that nature.
That's right. They're going to be affected too. They started off and they did their part, but then the commission could come behind them and cut some of the whole precincts that they were actually doing their districts on. And that was a new thing for Louisiana to do it that way, but it worked out quite well, and I'm really looking forward. I think we got everything ready to go.
Well, we're ready to go. There's one more thing that we need to really talk about, and that is what's on the ballot, because it's going to be a unique ballot this year. And again, this is the first time for redistricting in 10 years, so you may have some changes where you might go to vote. So we'll check on that in just a minute with Ernie. Well, Ernie, this is fall 2011 election update for the October 22nd primary. And just the other day, I received a new voter registration card in the mail. Did you get yours?
As a matter of fact, I got mine right here. And the good news about this card is it tells you what your new districts are. And that's important information because you may have had like a parish commission district swapped, and this will have that information on here, and it'll be under the POLJRY for police jury. We call it parish commission here. But you'll also have your state senate, your state representative districts on here, and it'll also give you some other information about future elections. But it's really important to keep up with this because the main thing is it tells you where to go vote. And that's the most important thing, is what's my polling place, and it's right on here in case your polling place got changed. And Tom, this is important to the extent that federal law requires that this be mailed out to any voter anytime there's a change, and that's been done here in Caddo.
And here we are again, fall election 2011 update for the October 22nd primary. Tom Pace with Ernie Robertson here, the Caddo Registrar of Voters. One of the things we forgot to mention, caddovoter.org, www.caddovoter.org. It is a one-stop shop 24/7. If you have any questions about registration, where to vote, things of that nature, Ernie has put together one of the most complete websites in the nation, Ernie.
It really has turned out well. It's very informative. Everything's click on. You can check your registration. You can check where you go to vote. You can even check what's on your ballot, and that's what we're going to talk about next.
I'm looking at this board here with all of these races that people are going to be going to vote in. Is this actually every one that they're going to be voting on?
Not exactly, and that's what we got to talk about. Not all of the elections actually have contests. Now, everybody's going to vote for governor because there are about 9 people running for governor. We've got candidates for lieutenant governor, candidates for secretary of state, and the secretary of state not only is the normal 4-year election, we've even got a special election thrown in for the little piece of a term that's left on, so you can get to vote twice for secretary of state. Now, we get an attorney general, that's challenged, but treasurer isn't challenged. It's the only statewide office that will not be on the ballot. We get down to Commissioner of Agriculture, they have a challenger. Commissioner of Insurance has a challenger. But the BESE board, the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, does not have a challenge. That will not appear on your ballot. State senator, everybody in Caddo is going to have a state senate race because we have 3 state senate seats. All 3 of them are challenged. But that's not the case for state representative. We have some of those that are not challenged, so you're going to need to check and see if you're challenged or not. The one up north is not challenged. Another one kind of in the central to the west part of the city is not challenged. And the one out in the Broadmoor area that extends into Bossier is not challenged. Sheriff does have a challenger. The clerk of court was not challenged, so that won't appear on your ballot. The assessor is challenged. The coroner is not challenged. And parish commissioners, half of them of the 12, 6 of the seats are challenged, so you will see that on there. And then we got special elections.
Special elections because these are different from this?
Well, what happened was, of course, we had a death with one of our city judges. So it's a sub-district, Tom. Not everybody in the city is going to get to vote on this. Just about, I would say about half the voters in the city will actually get to vote on the special election for city judge. We have a Caddo School Board member who resigned. So if you're in District 3 Caddo School Board, you do get to vote on that. And then we have a Justice of the Peace special election also up in Ward 3. That's up north of town. So as you can see, it's very important to check on caddovoter.org. Click on there, what's on my ballot, and it'll tell you what's going to be on your ballot and what you're going to be eligible to vote on.
If it sounds monumental, it really isn't. All it is, it's just a mouse click away, like Ernie said, caddovoter.org, caddovoter.org. And then if you've got questions, if you're really wondering and you want to talk to a real person, they can call by phone.
Sure. 226-6891. You can give us a call. We're here Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. It's 226-6891. And I do want to mention, too, if you're over 65, you can vote by mail. There's a special program for people who are 65 or people who are handicapped to vote by mail. Call that same number and ask for info on that program. But it's aimed mainly at people who don't really ever want to go back to the polls. They may have some type of macular degeneration or some other type of mobility problem. And this is a great program for them. And that program, you can give us a call at 226-6891, and we'll work with you on that too.
Now, we're taping this. Here it is. It's a Tuesday, the 13th of September. What that means, it's very important as you're watching this because you only have about 8 days left to register before the October election. Is that right?
That's right. September 21st, the books close on that election. We have to have received your application, or it has to be postmarked if you mailed it, or you can submit it online at caddovoter.org, and those will come to us the next morning, but it has to be submitted by midnight on the 21st. So very important to get that done. And then we could have challenges to some of the candidates, so there may be a few more changes since we're taping this a little early.
So remember this now, your deadline will be next Wednesday, September 21st. If you say, oh my gosh, I sure want to vote in this because here you've got all these elections that are very, very important. You don't always have these statewide elections.
No, just every 4 years, and that they come up. And you also need to make sure your address is correct. Check your ID as far as your driver's license. Make sure the address agrees on that. That's very important when you go to vote.
So again, any questions that you have, caddovoter.org, caddovoter.org. It's the Caddo Registrar of Voters Office. It's our 2011 fall election update. I'm Tom Pace for Ernie Robertson, and all of the crew, that's his crew that is in here working on the registration and the pre-registration. Ernie, this has been a great learning experience.
Well, I hope it has, and if anybody needs to call us, give us a call. Thank you, Tom.
And we'll see you back as election date rolls on near.